you have an endgame Wyvern build using low tier items? The answer is absolutely, but maybe not in the way you think. You'll need to use a combination of Flame Breath, Devour, Oil Barrage, and a few more components that tie together the survival toolkit you'll need. So stick around until the end to find out exactly what those are and how you can fit it into your game. So what makes this Wyvern build feel powerful at every stage of the game instead of falling off later? It's the way our skill gems work together, creating a kit that clears fast, controls enemies, and melts bosses consistently. Rend is our primary attack while in Wyvern form. It strikes enemies directly in front of us and serves as the core skill for clearing, rage generation, and consistent damage output. Rend can consume power charges to add lightning damage, which significantly boosts its effectiveness and makes it scale extremely well into late game. Here's the support gems for Rend. Rage 2 grants 5 rage per melee hit. This is a cornerstone of the build, and many of our strongest skills scale directly with rage. Rapid Attacks 2 increases attack speed by 25%, improving clear speed and allowing us to generate rage much faster. Magnified Area 2 provides 45% increased area of effect, transforming Rend into a wide, near half circle attack with extended reach. Despite being melee, it almost functions like a range skill. Stun 2 adds 70% increased stun buildup, which is essential for boss control and wave clearing, especially when combined with Wing Blast. Flame Breath is one of the most visually impressive and powerful skills in the build. It allows us to fly into the air and channel a massive flame attack that burns everything on the screen. Flame Breath consumes rage to extend its duration and can also consume power charges to deal significantly more damage. Here are some support gems for Flame Breath. Rapid Attacks 2 makes channeling starts 25% faster, improving responsiveness and overall damage uptime. Burjan 2 grants up to 40% more damage after channeling for 2 seconds, which is very easy to maintain during combat. Rage Forge 2 allows Flame Breath to consume 10 rage to deal 35% more damage, with a 30% chance to gain this benefit without actually spending rage. When combined with Burjan, this results in extremely high sustained damage. Oil Barrage functions as our second major damage skill for both clearing packs and dealing with bosses. Similar to Flame Breath, it scales very well with power charge consumption, adding lightning damage and improving sustain. With this skill, you'll want to use support gems such as Rapid Attacks 2, Rage Forge 2, and Burjan 2. Devour is one of the most important utility skills in the build. It allows us to consume corpses or enemies marked with a blue light to generate power charges while also restoring life. This skill is critical for sustaining our damage rotation and survivability. The support gems you'll want to use with Devour is Rapid Attacks 2 or 3, Fist of War 1, which causes Devour to slam the area around the target, dealing 30% more damage with increased area effect. This helps clear nearby enemies. Or you can also use Bramble Slam. It adds additional impact and visual flair. While not mandatory, it provides extra area damage and feels good to use. Wing Blast launches us backward with a powerful wing beat that knocks enemies away. When used against enemies marked with a white light, it creates a shockwave that heavily stuns or outright kills them, while also having a chance to generate power charges. For this skill, you'll want to use support gems such as Magnified Area 2, which increases the range of Wing Blast, Impact Shockwave, which creates an active shock whenever an enemy is heavily stunned, damaging enemies with a 1.5 meter radius and often clearing entire packs, or Maim, which ensures enemies are always maimed on hit, reducing movement speed and evasion. The duration is not critical, but the control is valuable. Pounce is our primary opener for most encounters. It shapeshifts us into a werewolf and launches us onto the highest rarity enemy, dealing area damage and applying a mark. This mark forces wolf minions to focus their attacks on the target, enabling strong single target pressure. For this skill, you'll want to use Holy Descent, Fist of War 2, and Momentum. Lingering Illusion creates a copy of us with 1% of our maximum life that lasts 3 seconds. If enemies hit the illusion, it drops a remnant that lasts 5 seconds. Picking up the remnant grants a power charge, making this a reliable and passive source of charge generation. Savage Fury grants 25% more damage and Onslaught while active, at the cost of losing 3% of maximum life per second. Onslaught provides increased skill speed and movement speed, making this an extremely strong offensive spirit gem. Barksing grants armor whenever our energy shield takes damage. Specifically, we gain armor equal to 39% of the energy shield loss. Wolfpack costs 60 spirit and summons a pack of wolves. These wolves primarily function as distractions, keeping enemies occupied while we safely generate rage and power charges and execute our combo. For support gems, you'll want to use Elemental Army, Minion Mastery, and Feedy Frenzy 2. That covers all active skill gems and spirit gems for the build. Keep in mind that Path of Exile 2 strongly encourages flexibility. Choose your gems carefully and adapt the setup to match your playstyle and available resources. Let's move on to another important part of the build, the passive tree. We will start with the ascendancy points and then proceed to the main passive tree choices, explaining the reasoning behind each selection. We begin with Sacred Flow, which grants 40 spirit per empty slot charm. Personally, I don't value charms very highly, aside from using a few that provide rarity upon defeating rare monsters, but because of that, Sacred Flow is an excellent deal for us, as it converts unused charm slots into a large spirit bonus. Next, we take a small node that grants +3 to all elemental resistances, followed by the major node, Reactive Growth. This node is extremely powerful. In addition to granting 10% less elemental damage taken, it provides an adaptive shield that reacts to the highest elemental damage type of each hit we take, up to 3 different elements. For each matching adaptation, we gain an additional 10% less damage taken of that elemental type. This makes us extremely tanky in certain scenarios. To complete this cluster, we take Avatar of Evolution, which converts 15% of physical damage taken into cold, fire, and lightning damage. This interaction allows our adaptive shield to build faster and significantly reduces incoming damage from multiple hit types for 5 seconds. Next, we allocate Wisdom of the Magi, which grants additional benefits from rune and idol modifiers on our items. The bonuses differ depending on the modifier, but since these are effectively free extra stats per rune, there is no downside to taking this node. Moving on to the passive tree itself, we start with 10% increased spell damage and attack damage, then path into Guardian of the Wilds. This node provides 10% increased damage, adds 5% of damage as a random element, and most importantly grants +5 strength and +5 intelligence. This translates directly into more life and more mana capacity. From there, we take Radial Force, which grants 10% increased area of effect and 12% increased immobilization buildup. This greatly improves pack clearing and makes stunning bosses much easier. Next is a node that grants 15% increased armor and faster energy shield recharge starts. This node itself is not particularly valuable for us, but we take it in order to gain the +5 strength and +5 intelligence it provides. We then move into Primal Spirit, which boosts hit chance and skill speed while shapeshifted. Since we are shapeshifted most of the time, this is a strong and consistent bonus. If you want to be tankier, you can take an alternate route that grants 25% increased armor and maximum energy shield, along with 3% increased movement speed. This path improves survivability while still offering some mobility. If instead you prefer more damage, you can prioritize a node that provides 20% more damage and 12% immobilization buildup. Focus Channel grants 25% more damage with channeling skills such as Flame Breath and Oil Barrage, along with 50% increased stun threshold while channeling, making it much harder for enemies to interrupt us. Another very valuable passive shines especially on maps with curse modifiers. This node increases channeling skill damage by 20%, and if you channel for 2 seconds, it removes a curse from you. For example, if you step into a curse zone, simply channel Flame Breath or Oil Barrage for 2 seconds and the curse is removed. It feels almost like a cheat code. Next, we take Reinforced Barrier, which grants 20% more maximum energy shield. Additionally, if our energy shield is not low, it defends us with 120% of our armor, adding another strong defensive layer. We then take Among the Hordes, which grants 3% increased movement speed, 15% increased attack damage, and also gives our minions 10% increased movement speed. Following that is Encompassing Domain, granting 10% increased area damage and 12% increased area effect if you have stunned an enemy recently. Next, we allocate Rage on Hit, which grants 1 additional rage per melee hit. Each connected node also provides +3 maximum rage while shapeshifted. And finally, Primal Rage grants +12 maximum rage while shapeshifted. We then move into the Claw cluster, starting with Piercing Claw, which grants 15% more damage penetration against enemies with elemental resistance while shapeshifted. Since we are shapeshifted almost all the time, this condition is effectively permanent. Right next to it, we take Swift Claw for 10% more skill speed and Sharpen Claw for 30% more physical damage. Next is Impact Force, which grants 20% increased stun buildup and 25% increased attack area damage. This significantly improves boss control and allows us to clear enemies both on and off screen. We also take Impact Area, which provides 12% increased AoE if you have stunned an enemy recently, as well as 12% increased AoE for attacks with no condition, further enhancing pack clearing. We then allocate Blood Rush, granting 6% increased skill speed and converting 6% of skill mana cost to life costs. While the life cost conversion is not a major factor, the skill speed is very valuable. Another interesting passive disables energy shield recharge entirely, but causes excess life regeneration to also apply to energy shield. This creates strong synergy with Devour. When you gain life regeneration and power charge from Devour, your energy shield is regenerated as well. Next, we take Hide of the Bear, which grants 40% increased armor, 15% to maximum fire resistance, and 25% increased stun threshold. Following that is Spirit of the Bear. Another key passive is Ancient Aegis, and finally, we can take Spirit of the Wolf. You can allocate all of these nodes by approximately level 75, assuming you have completed all campaign quests that grant extra passive skill points. Pack clearing is very straightforward and highly fluid. We typically open with pounds to engage the pack and immediately identify priority targets. If we see a blue light above an enemy's head, we use Devour instantly to generate power charges and recover life. Once we have power charges, we use Rend to consume them and enhance our attacks with lightning damage. With good positioning, this alone is often enough to clear most enemies. If the pack is dense or positioned well, we can immediately follow up with Oil Barrage, which can wipe the entire screen when enhanced by power charges. Alternatively, after enhancing Rend, we can continue attacking to build Rage, then Devour corpses to generate additional power charges. Once we have sufficient Rage and power charges, we use Flame Breath to completely melt everything on screen. While using Rend, we also have a strong chance to build up stun. When stun buildup is high enough, a white light appears above enemies' heads. At that point, we use Wing Blast to heavily stun or outright explode them, triggering Impact Shockwave, which can clear entire packs instantly. Throughout all pack encounters, it's important to regularly use Devour to maintain power charges, full life, and full energy shield at all times. Boss fights require more situational awareness, but the rotation remains simple. The easiest scenario is when we enter the fight with power charges already available. Since power charges only last 15 seconds, this is not always possible, but when it is, we immediately use Rend to consume them and add lightning damage. From there, we have two options. If we also have Rage, the best choice is Flame Breath, which will deal massive damage and often end the fight quickly. If we only have power charges and no Rage, we instead use Oil Barrage, which is still strong enough to kill most bosses efficiently. If we enter a boss fight with no power charges and no Rage, there is no need to panic. We start with Pounce as our opener. This immediately engages the boss and creates space, allowing us to dodge more freely. The boss will often attack our Lingering Illusion, which causes remnants to drop. Picking up these remnants quickly generates power charges. Alternatively, we can open with Flame Breath even without enhancements. While unenhanced, it still deals significant damage and contributes heavily to stun buildup. We then follow up Rend, thanks to Stun 2, which grants 70% increased stun buildup. The boss will eventually show a white light above its head. When this happens, we use Wing Blast to heavily stun the boss and generate enough power charges to finish the fight with Oil Barrage or Flame Breath. Don't forget that Savage Fury is available on demand boost. You can use it whenever you feel comfortable or save it specifically for boss encounters. Whether you activate it on cooldown or reserve it for key moments depends entirely on your playstyle and risk tolerance. How expensive is it to get a late game Wyvern build off the ground? This build is designed to function with very achievable gear. None of the items listed here are meant to be high-end or optimized for flexing stats. For the main weapon, we are using a talisman obtained during the campaign and upgraded primarily through Vow Rooms. The most important requirement is having both physical damage and lightning damage, since all of our enhanced damage scaling is based on lightning. As long as these two stats are present, the weapon performs well enough for progression. The second weapon slot is not actively used for damage. However, it still provides valuable utility stats such as intelligence and reduced attribute requirements, which can be helpful in certain gearing situations. We're using standard life and mana flasks with a reasonable amount of recovery and more than 10 charges per flask. Nothing fancy is required here. The goal is simply consistent sustain during combat. We're using a charm that increases item rarity when killing rare or unique enemies. While charms are not a major focus of the build, this provides some extra value during mapping and synergizes well with general farming. The boots provide 25% increased movement speed, 621 armor, 35% fire resistance, 60% reduced chill duration. Reduced chill duration is particularly valuable during mapping as it significantly improves mobility and overall comfort in cold heavy encounters. The belt offers 21% fire resistance, 24% lightning resistance, and plus 159 to maximum life. This combination provides solid defensive value and is more than sufficient for early and mid-game map progression. The gloves are relatively weak and only provide 19% chaos resistance, which is the only meaningful stat on them. The first wings provide 27% lightning resistance, and the second adds 16% lightning resistance, for a total of 43% lightning resistance along with additional minor modifiers. The amulet provides plus 20 to all attributes, 13% to all elemental resistances. The helmet is admittedly unremarkable and contains several modifiers that are not ideal. That said, the key takeaway is that the helmet slot should prioritize armor-based defenses and resistance modifiers. The body armor currently provides 18 armor and 36% cold resistance. This gear setup is intentionally modest and accessible. It allows the build to function smoothly while farming currency and progressing into higher tier content. Focus first on resistances, life, armor, and lightning scaling damage before chasing luxury stats.